Welcome to this week's edition of Coach Prep. Coach Don and I are here in the Cherokee Batting Range podcast studio getting ready to record episode number 94. We've got a really good topic for you today, kind of about common sense in coaching and some messages that we're sending to our players. First off, though, let's talk about our sponsors. First, Anderson Bat Company. Everything Fastpitch is very proud to have Anderson Bat Company as our presenting sponsor. Anderson Bat Company is using the latest and greatest bat technology to corner the market in the Fastpitch world. They have the -9 Rocket Tech, the -10 Carbon, and the -11 Carbon Light. Anderson Bat Company is using this technology to put a high-performing bat in the hands of hitters that really know the difference between a good bat and a great bat. We're also working with Anderson to provide a discount for all of our listeners. Go to the Anderson Bat Company website and order your bats. Use the EFP20 discount, which is for everything Fastpitch, and you'll get a 20% discount. It's a great way for you to save a little bit of money on a great bat and also help support everything Fastpitch at the same time. And let's talk about patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. If you're in a position where you can help support us, become a patron. There's 3 different levels of support. We certainly do appreciate the patrons that we have on board already. You're doing a great job, and we really do appreciate it. The family of people is keeping this show running and keeping us afloat. But if we can get some more people to come on board, it would be greatly appreciated. We want to keep everything Fastpitch and Coach Prep on the free side. We don't want to become a subscription service, and the patrons are the things that are keeping that happening. So please become one if you can. All right, so Don, common sense. So here's one of the things that made me think about it. A couple weeks ago we had Joey Myers on the Everything Fastpitch podcast.
Right.
And Joey hooked us up with a lot of his information and different books and articles and blogs and all kinds of stuff that he has written. And he made a point in one of them that made me really think about this topic. So the topic was ground balls are gross. And his point was a simple one, and I wanted us to expand upon it a little bit. Look at it from a pitching perspective. If I'm talking to my pitcher as a coach, what is the thing I'm hoping that she can do for me?
Get outs?
Get outs, but probably ground ball outs.
Sure.
Right? The whole idea is we're trying to teach pitchers that if they keep the ball low in the zone, if they work at the bottom of the zone, if they can keep the ball down, they're going to get ground balls, and ground balls lead to ground ball outs. And if we are really successful pitchers, we get a lot of ground balls and not very many balls in the air.
And win some games, yeah.
And win some games. But then for many of us as coaches, and again, this might be old school, it might seem like blasphemy to some people, the same coaches that are telling their pitchers, we want you to get ground balls, are telling the hitters to hit ground balls.
To not hit fly balls. Right?
Yeah. So the same coaches are telling their hitters to hit ground balls while they're telling their pitchers to get ground balls.
Okay.
Now think about that for a second. So
makes no sense.
Makes absolutely no sense when we talk about the whole common sense idea.
Yeah.
If we know that pitchers want ground balls, and we know that we want our pitchers to get us ground balls because we think that's going to give us more chances to win, and the players on our team are hearing us say things like, bottom of the zone, keep it low, make her pound it in the ground, make her hit it in the ground, ground balls are good, we want ground balls. And then we turn around and we tell our hitters, swing down on the ball, swing it, whatever it takes to hit it on the ground. If you hit it on the ground, somebody's got to pick it up and throw it, and somebody else has got to catch it, so they got to do 3 things to get it out. They can't both be right.
Well, I don't want them to hit it at them, Tori. I want them to hit it between them.
So
Right.
Our plan is to tell our hitters to hit it on the ground, but to be skilled enough that they can hit it 1 degree right or left to hit it in the gap instead of hitting it at somebody?
Fortunate enough. I don't think that they can, but yeah, I think it's easier to get fly ball outs than ground ball. I don't know.
Well,
what do you think?
Here's what I think.
Where are we heading?
I want our coaches to ponder on, and here's what I want you to start to think about. Every time we send a mixed message, every time we send something that contradicts what we just said, every time we coach something that is the opposite of what we've just said, sends a really confusing message to our players.
Right.
Okay? Tell our pitchers we want them to get ground balls. We want them to work the bottom of the zone. That's perfect. I love that idea. I love that strategy.
She's hitting in the next half of the inning.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's okay, but then we have to have a different philosophy with the hitters that we're coaching, which should be typically, if not 180 degrees opposite, at least some variable of opposite. if our goal is to get our pitchers to throw ground balls, then our hitter's goal should be to not hit ground balls. Now, we can emphasize we want them to hit line drives. We can emphasize that we want them to hit the ball as hard as we can, and some of those might ultimately end up being ground balls.
How about line drive or lower?
Right. But the idea is if we want our hitters to hit line drives, then we have to emphasize that and send that message and coach the skills and the ability to hit that ball on the button and hit a line drive consistently. And here's where the problem is. So we just told our players that we want our pitchers to get us ground balls, but then we work on something in hitting that makes us hit the ball on the ground.
Right, okay.
Versus doing something in practice that gives us a chance to hit a line drive. Or for an older, stronger, more developed player to hit that towering home run or that, that smash in the gap. Launch angle and barrel attack and angle of attack and all that stuff is, very hot button topics for a lot of people to talk about. And there's all kinds of things that tie into that. If our goal is to hit line drives, a fly ball is much closer to what we want than swinging down on the ball to hit a ground ball.
If it leaves the park.
Yeah, but think about it. If you take your best hitter and you take her out to the ballpark and she hits 25 ground balls or she hits 25 balls in the air, which do you think is going to lead to her being more successful against a decent team that's going to pick up most ground balls and throw them across the field?
Again, I'm in that line drive or lower. If we get some fly balls in it, then, that's the one that if it's able to leave the park. But if it's not, the older the kids get, the more ground they cover, the more fly balls they reel in.
Right.
So,
and vastly more ground balls they make plays on.
Potentially, yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't tell me if an outfielder can go further to catch a fly ball that a shortstop can't go further to catch a ground ball.
Sure.
But here's the message, and here's why I want us to talk about it. Just in our little discussion right now, I think you would confuse the hell out of me if you were my coach.
To want you to hit line drives?
Because you just told me a line drive or lower, which includes a lot of ground balls.
So if I make a mistake on my line drive, I'd like for it to be under rather than lifting. I mean, again, we're in this situation where if all of our kids are popping up, then okay, well, we're hitting too much of the lower half of the ball. But you told me you want me to hit fly balls. Right. So is it okay for me to have pop-ups?
Right. Well,
I mean,
yeah, I think what happens
so when you miss, you miss.
Right. Well, I think if you're aiming for a line drive, three things are going to happen. You're going to hit it on the button, you're going to hit a line drive. Every once in a while, you're going to miss above the center line, you're going to hit a ground ball. Right. And every once in a while, you're going to hit below the center line, you're going to hit a fly ball.
True. And it might not be anything that we're doing. It might be what the pitcher's doing, too, that creates that.
Right.
Miss.
And that's why that margin for error is part of the discussion. But to my way of thinking is if I'm coaching a team and I'm telling us on defense we love ground balls, on offense I can't love ground balls. Or I'm really confusing the heck out of the kids that are trying to listen to my message.
No, and I'm with you. And again, too, ground balls, I think defensively are much better than, home runs, right? If we're playing somebody that can hit home runs.
Right. But. Well, and I think that the reason that this is important is if we are emphasizing what we really want, which is we want line drives, we've got to be willing to accept the fact that not every ball is going to be a line drive. We're going to hit some pop-ups. We're going to hit some fly balls. We're going to hit some of those kinds of balls, just like we're going to hit the top of the ball and hit a ground ball to the shortstop once in a while. But where I think we get in trouble is when we're telling kids to do one thing on defense and then teaching them to do things that make it really likely we're going to do the same things on offense.
Sure, it's a confusing message.
It's pretty confusing, right? And if I'm the pitcher being told to get ground balls because ground balls are good, I don't want to be a hitter who's hitting ground balls because I know that that's good for the pitcher. It's not good for me.
And it's tough on the conversation too because again, we're talking about somebody that's a finesse pitcher. You're not going to tell a rise ball pitcher to throw, get ground balls.
Depends on what our team strategy is. Depends on what our philosophy is.
Well, I mean, or what your pitcher's strength is.
Right.
If her strength is to, strike out, pop up, you're not going to have her getting you ground balls. But again, if that's the type of pitcher that we've got, then of course you got to give an offensive message as well and to not let it be confusing.
Right. But so to kind of take it to another level, so we're not talking, I mean, obviously we're talking about confusing kids with the hitting
with the
versus
message.
Pitching thing.
Yeah.
But how about be aggressive, but then be in trouble when you get thrown out? get a good leadoff, be really aggressive in your leadoff, but then being mad when you get called out for leaving early.
Sure.
How about I want you to go all out and catch every single ball that gets hit in the air, but then you're in trouble if you dive for a ball and it goes to the fence.
And we get burned.
Right.
Sure.
I want you to be super aggressive, and you've got a great arm. I think you can throw runners out, but then being mad because she throws it home and airmails it a little bit, and we miss the cutoff person, and somebody else gets an extra base.
So be cautious in our message.
Right. And so the common sense thing and the message that it sends to our players is the moral to the story. And we started off, we spent a lot of time talking about hitting, but I think if we really analyze the stuff that we're saying to our teams, we do an awful lot of this
back and
unintended,
forth,
unintended, don't really even understand that we're doing it, mixed messaging, where we're saying one thing, but then penalizing that thing if it doesn't always work out. If my goal is to hit a line drive and I'm taking a swing at the right angle and the right plane to hit a line drive, and every once in a while I hit a fly ball, if my philosophy is I want you to hit a line drive, I've got to live with that.
Right.
Just like if I want you to dive for everything in the outfield because I think you're fast enough to catch everything, I've got to live with the fact that you're going to dive at the wrong time one time and it's going to cost us a game.
Yes.
If I'm going to talk about we want to be the most aggressive team on the bases that's ever played this game, and somebody gets thrown out at third because the ball only went 1 foot away from the catcher and she was able to scramble after it and throw us out, I've got to be able to live with it. I can't be sending both messages. I can't be preaching one thing.
But that's coaching, isn't it? Being unhappy with it.
Well, being unhappy is fine. If your philosophy is take no chances at all, be the most conservative base runner that's ever played, you should never get thrown out.
We're being too passive, and we're taking too many good pitches, Tori, or we're just way too aggressive. We're not taking enough pitches. We're not
and
seeing
that's another perfect one. You got to be an aggressive hitter, and then
we got to be more selective.
Yeah, and then the first time a kid swings at a pitch that's out of the strike zone, it's like, I can't believe you swung at that.
Why are we swinging at the first pitch?
Yeah. Or I want you to really make the pitcher work, really make her work, and then are always hitting with 2 strikes because we're making the pitcher work, and then it's like, well, if we're not going to hit the first strike we see, we're never going to get any hits.
Right.
So the list of things that coaches do that violate this
we're never content
common sense thing is a long list. So our challenge is for all of you, think about some of these messages, make sure that the message that you're sending and the way you're reacting to it, somebody who's never played softball, who's never played this game would hear it and would understand it. If it would confuse a layperson who doesn't know the game, chances are it's confusing your players too. And if that's happening, we're going to be headed for big trouble. So, Don, anything else for number 94?
Cool. No, that was fun.
All right. So please make sure you check out our sponsors, Anderson Bat and patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. Reach out to us at everythingfastpitch@gmail.com or fastpitchprep@gmail.com. So for Coach Don McKinley and our producer, Stan Lewis, this is Coach Tori saying thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.